I watched my wife kiss me goodbye that Thursday morning, but her lips barely touched mine. Like she was greeting a coworker, not her husband. Her perfume was stronger than usual, layered on with deliberate care. She was dressing up for someone, just not for me. "Late gym session tonight," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. I nodded, smiled back, said nothing, because 2 days earlier, I had found a crumpled hotel parking receipt in her car. Not from her office, not from her gym, from a boutique hotel downtown, with room numbers and handwriting that was not hers scribbled on the back. My heart did not break in that moment. It froze, but I did not confront her. Not yet. Instead, I did something she never expected. I started watching. Listening. Gathering evidence. And that's when I received the message that changed everything. "Chester, I am sorry to contact you like this, but we need to talk about your wife." A stranger named Anastasia. Her husband's mistress was my wife. And she had photos to prove it. Most men would. They exploded. Screamed. Thrown things. Filed for divorce in a blind rage. But I am not most men. My revenge would not be loud. It would not be messy. It would be calculated, cold, and absolutely devastating. Because the best revenge is not destroying someone, it's making them watch as you become someone they can never reach again. This is the story of how my wife's betrayal taught me that sometimes the quietest move is the deadliest one. There was a time when Katie Smith looked at me with a gaze that told me I was everything to her. My jokes, even the most awkward ones, made her laugh sincerely. She constantly wore my hoodies. Her hand always searched for mine when we walked between the aisles in a store. We were the kind of couple people envied. They said about us that we had found the formula for a perfect marriage. But the truth is this: beautiful things rarely collapse all at once. They fall apart gradually, piece by piece, until the moment comes when you touch them, and everything turns to dust in your hands. I first noticed the beginning of the change on a Thursday morning. Katie left the house earlier than usual, when the sun had only just begun to brush the asphalt in front of our home. Her kiss was shallow, her lips barely touching mine, more like a polite greeting to an acquaintance than a goodbye to her husband. The scent of her perfume was stronger than usual, applied with unusual care. As if she was trying to impress someone, but definitely not me. Evening workouts at the gym. A sudden fascination with new coworkers. A smartphone that became an extension of her hand. Each of these details turned into fragments of a story that was assembling itself in my mind, even though I was afraid to admit how it would end. But that morning, everything finally made sense. As I was taking out the trash, I noticed it. A crumpled parking ticket on the floor of her car. Not from her workplace. Not from the fitness center. From a luxury hotel in the downtown area. On the back were apartment numbers written down, and handwriting that looked nothing like hers. My heart did not shatter. It froze. There are moments in life when sound disappears. When the world around you becomes so quiet that you start hearing your own heartbeat, slow, heavy, like footsteps echoing through an empty hallway. It was at that moment I realized, my marriage was not just cracking. It was decomposing from the inside. Still, I did not confront her. Not right away. Because pain has an astonishing ability. It can transform a person into a version of themselves they never expected to meet. So instead of confrontation, I began observing. I started noticing the nuances. How her smile no longer belonged to me, as if it were meant for someone else. How she guarded her phone as if it contained classified information. How she came home carrying the scent of a man as cologne I had never worn. And then fate handed me something I could never have been prepared for. A message from a stranger. "Chester, I am sorry to contact you like this, but I need to talk to you about your wife." Her name was Anastasia Barrymore. Young, emotionally exhausted. Her voice trembled, as if she had spent hours crying. She was not hysterical. She did not accuse me directly. She sounded like someone who had just felt herself suffocating and did not know how to breathe normally again. She explained that her husband, Rob, had become distant. He stayed late at work, invented brief, urgent errands, hid his phone screen. A familiar feeling, right? And then she said the sentence that made the ground drop out from under me. "I found photos in his gallery. And it looks like the woman in them is your wife." Every cell in my body felt like it was hit with an electric shock. Anastasia forwarded the photos to me. Nothing overtly obscene. Nothing illegal. But far too intimate. Katie laughing in a mirror as reflection, with Rob standing behind her, his arms wrapped around her waist. Katie, his hand resting on Rob's chest in a hotel hallway. The two of them sitting in his car, and she is leaning over the center console with that same gentle smile she once reserved only for me. Something inside me broke, silently. But in that silence, something new was born. Colder, sharper, controlled. I did not scream. I did not throw things. I did not call Katie with hysterical accusations. No, I started developing a strategy. Because if infidelity is a game, the smartest player is the one who does not make a move until the entire board is under his control. For the next 2 days, I acted normal. I made breakfast. I kissed her goodbye. I pretended to be asleep when she quietly slipped back in late at night. Inside, I was not falling apart. I was constructing something she could never anticipate. And then the decisive evening came. She locked the door, adjusted her hair, picked up her purse. "I am meeting a friend for drinks," she said neutrally. A friend. It took all my restraint not to laugh. She left. I waited. And 15 minutes later, a message arrived. "Just coffee with a friend." But this is not where our story begins. This is where my retaliation begins. Katie's message glowed on the screen. Short, seemingly harmless. But once you've tasted the poison of betrayal, even the gentlest word tears at your throat like a splinter. I watched the screen, and instead of rage, I felt silence inside. The same silence felt by someone who has walked through the ashes of something that burned long before they were willing to admit there was a fire. I did not respond immediately. I let her enjoy, just a little longer, the comfort of her own deception. Because for the first time in our entire marriage, the power was mine. I walked into the living room. Half darkness. The monotonous hum of the refrigerator cutting through the silence. I sat down on the couch and reopened the photos from Anastasia. Not for self-torture, but to carve every detail into my memory. To remind myself, this was not my imagination. And then I remembered what Anastasia had told me during our late-night call. He deletes everything from his phone. But I have backup footage from the security cameras. I intercepted part of their conversation. She sent me the audio recording that same day. I had not listened to it yet. I pressed play. First came Rob's voice, smooth, anxious, guilt-ridden. "You'll just say you stayed late at work again. He does not ask questions anyway, right?" And then, Katie's voice. The voice I had always believed incapable of lying. She said quietly, "He is convinced I spend half my time at the gym. He trusts me too much." The word, trusts, destroyed me. Not because of the affair itself, but because she mocked it. The recording ended with them planning a trip. Something about the upcoming Tuesday. And again, apartment 508. My jaw clenched. But not from grief. From resolve. I finally typed my reply. No shouting. No accusations. No pleading. Just one calm sentence, enough to ruin her entire evening. "Ask your companion what his wife thinks about the new photos." I sent it. And I waited. The first reaction came instantly. Then another. Then another. The phone vibrated as if in convulsions. "Chester, what photos? Who talked to you? Answer me right now. Where did you get them? Please respond. Chester, this is not funny. I am begging you, write back." 12 messages in 60 seconds. Pure panic. Pure terror. I did not open a single one. Instead, I grabbed my jacket and drove into the night. Not to confront anyone, but because I refused to stay in a house where I had been lied to for months. I drove to an overlook outside the city. The city lights scattered below like shattered stars. There was silence there. Peace. The kind my marriage had not known for a very long time. The phone rang again. I watched it ring until the call stopped. A few seconds later, again. And again. My wife. The woman who had ignored my emotions for months suddenly could not exist without hearing my voice. I answered the call only on the 4th attempt. Not because it mattered, but because silence is a sharp weapon. And I had already used it enough. "Chester?" Her voice broke through the receiver. "What is going on? Explain this to me right now." I inhaled slowly, evenly. "Why do not you ask him that question?" Silence. Oppressive. Suffocating. Then she said, barely audible, "You talked to her, did not you?" I did not respond. She drew in a sharp breath. The kind of breath people take when they realize the ground beneath their feet is gone. "How much do you know?" she whispered. Enough. A pause. A tremor in her tone. "Chester, please, it is not what you think." I barely suppressed a smile. Hotel timestamps do not lie. Photos do not lie. Audio recordings do not lie. A sudden passion for the gym does not lie. And Katie, she was a gifted performer. You are coming home, I said, colder than I intended. We are going to talk. She tried to steady herself. Okay, I am on my way. Just do not do anything unpredictable. The irony of the word, unpredictable, made my jaw tighten. I ended the call. For the first time in months, the weight in my chest lifted. Not because the truth hurt less, but because the lie had hurt far more. I stayed at the overlook for another 20 minutes, letting the wind cool my anger, watching the city blur below, like a life that had slipped from my hands long ago. By the time I headed home, I already knew what my retaliation would be. Not shouting, not insults, not humiliation. No, my retaliation would be refined, silent, devastating, the kind that rewrites the entire story from its foundation. Because betrayal taught me one critically important thing. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is not destroying someone, but forcing them to watch as you transform into a person they will never again be able to reach. When I pulled into the driveway, Katie's car was already there. She stood by the front door, tears streaking her makeup, her hands trembling. But tears do not compensate for infidelity. And remorse does not erase the choices already made. She spoke barely above a whisper. Please, just listen to me. Oh, I would listen. But not as the husband she once deceived. As the man who had finally ended a marriage she had buried long before I ever found out. Katie froze in the doorway like a child caught stealing. Mascara ran in dark lines down her face. Her breathing was uneven, unstable. The porch light flooded her in a dull yellow glow, making her look even more guilty and emptier than the woman to whom I once promised, for life. Chester, please, she whispered shakily. Just let me explain everything. I walked past her in silence. I did not slam the door. I did not raise my voice. My quiet unsettled her more than any shouting ever could. She followed me inside. Her high heels clicked against the hardwood floor, like timid apologies that had come too late. I walked into the living room and sat down. Calm, collected, almost cold, like a surgeon before an operation. She stood a few steps away, clenching her hands as if the truth itself were painful to hold. Sit, I said quietly. She obeyed immediately. It was strange how easily she had ignored my emotions for months, yet the moment the truth cornered her, she treated every word I spoke like a command. She lowered herself onto the couch, breathing fast. Chester, I swear, she began. Things just got complicated. I never meant for anything to happen. I studied her face. Not the tears, not the trembling, but the faint glimmer of calculation. Her mind searching for the version of the story where she looked the least guilty. Who is this friend? I asked. She swallowed. Someone from the gym. I tilted my head slightly. Rob. Her body went completely rigid. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. That was the moment the lie reached its dead end. Let us skip this charade, I said evenly, and go straight to how long this has been going on. Katie shook her head frantically. No, Chester, it is not like that. I swear. It was not romantic. I raised an eyebrow. He had his arms around your waist in a hotel hallway. Her eyes widened in panic. She leaned forward, desperate. You saw that? Chester, please listen. It was stupid flirting. Nothing more. Apartment 508, I said calmly. She flinched as if I had struck her. How do you know that? You said the gym was good for you, I replied. Apparently, it was a much more intense workout than I imagined. She covered her face with her hands. Oh God, Chester, please. Her voice broke, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had married. Not a liar, not a cheater, but who she had been before routine, before distance, before everything between us broke. But I was not here for nostalgia. I did not come to revive what she had already buried. I want you to explain everything, I said. Every detail. She looked at me, broken, and finally said the words I had been waiting for. It started after your promotion. The promotion she had celebrated with balloons and a fake smile. The same promotion that made me work longer hours. Take on more responsibility. The one I believed I had earned for our future. You were always exhausted, she whispered. Always at work. Always tense. I felt alone. I leaned back, jaw clenched. So instead of talking to your husband, you started talking to a stranger? No, she sobbed. He was just there. He listened. He understood. Everything felt so complicated. And one night we drank, and I made a mistake. One night? I asked. She hesitated. A dangerous, revealing pause. Katie, I said her name like a verdict. Her shoulders slumped. No, she whispered. It was not just once. Silence. Not the gentle silence of understanding, but the crushing silence of truth, so heavy it could break bones. She hid her face again, sobbing into her hands. I never meant to get involved. I never wanted feelings. Feelings. The word thundered through the room. Heat rose in my chest, not rage, not heartbreak, but sharp, cutting clarity. She continued, shaking, clinging to any hope. I swear, I never planned anything. Rob just filled the emptiness. But I realized it was wrong. I tried to stop it so many times. And that is why you went for coffee tonight? My voice sliced through her excuses. She jerked her head up. No, tonight was just a conversation. To finally end it, she did not even realize she had confessed again. I stood up. She immediately reached for me. Do not, I said. Her hand froze in midair. And for the first time, she saw it. The part of me she had destroyed. And the new part rising from the wreckage. Chester, I am begging you, her voice cracked. Please do not leave. Do not do anything drastic. Oh, I am not doing anything drastic, I replied softly. My retaliation is not chaos. It is clarity. She blinked, confused, afraid. You chose him, I said. While I was exhausting myself building a life for us. You gave the most valuable parts of yourself to someone else. Chester, please. I am not the one who should be panicking tonight, I interrupted. You already did that the moment I mentioned the photos. She opened her mouth, but I did not let her speak. Want the honest truth? I asked. Her eyes lifted. Every time you lied to me, you taught me how to let go a little more. And now, I exhaled evenly. There is nothing left to hold on to. Tears streamed down her face again. I can fix everything, she whispered. I swear. I'll cut off all contact with him. Change my number. Do whatever you ask. Please, Chester, do not give up. I looked at her long enough to understand one thing. She was not crying because she had lost me. She was crying because she had lost control. And that was the first step of my retaliation. Because the next part, the one she never saw coming, I had already begun. And when everything is over, Katie will truly understand what betrayal is. Katie sat on the couch like a withered shadow of herself. Her trembling hands clasped together. Mascara smeared, her breathing breaking the silence of the room. She no longer looked at her husband. She was looking at the consequences of her choices. And for the first time in many months, she had no prepared script. No excuses. No soft lie left to wrap around the truth. I leaned against the doorway. Calm, collected, completely in control. You are saying you can fix this, I said. But fixing something starts with honesty. Are you capable of that? She nodded quickly. Too quickly. Yes, yes. I'll tell you everything. Just do not leave me. I took a slow breath. Then there is something you need to know before we talk about any kind of fixing. Her eyes widened with fear. I had a meeting today, I said, watching her carefully. A meeting with Anastasia. Her lips parted. The color drained from her face. You met with her? She deserved the truth, I replied. The same truth you and I both deserved. Her jaw trembled. Chester, why would you talk to her? This was between us. No, I cut her off. You turned it into a four-person matter the moment you walked into that hotel. She flinched, as if the word hotel caused physical pain. I stepped forward and placed a neatly stacked envelope on the coffee table. She stared at it like it might detonate. What is that? She whispered. Copies of everything, I said. The photos, the timestamps, the audio recording. Her face collapsed. The dam broke. Tears flowed again, but this time not from guilt. From fear. You will not do this, she whispered. Chester, you would not ruin my life. I met her eyes. You already ruined mine. She shook her head desperately. I'll change. I swear. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit the gym. I'll leave my job if I have to. Chester, please, just do not involve anyone else. Anastasia deserved the truth, I repeated firmly. She is the one who lay awake at night, not understanding why her husband no longer touched her. Why he kept lying. Why his phone was always face down. Katie squeezed her eyes shut. Her shoulders shook. Rob has already been served the papers, I continued. She did not wait around to hear his excuses. Katie's eyes flew open. Papers? Chester, what have you done? I stood by a woman who did not deserve to be deceived, I said. Something you could have done for me. She curled in on herself, hugging her knees like a child. You are leaving me? I let the question hang in the air. Not as a threat, not as a weapon, but as a mirror. You left too little of this marriage for me to stay in, I said. She sobbed harder, shaking her head. I am begging you, do not do this. I can fix everything. She waited for me to say more, to soften, to retreat, but I didn't. Instead, I reached into my pocket and placed my wedding ring beside the envelope. Metal against glass. A quiet sound. Final. This isn't punishment, I said calmly. It's consequence. Her breathing broke apart. I turned toward the hallway, already feeling lighter, not relieved, but unburdened. As if I had finally set down something I'd been carrying long after it stopped being mine. Chester, she whispered behind me. Who are you now? I paused, my hand resting on the doorframe. I'm someone who listens to the truth the first time it shows itself. I left that night with nothing dramatic, no shouting, no slammed doors. Just a suitcase, a car, and a future that was suddenly undefined. And yet, for the first time in years, it was honest. Weeks later, the house would be quiet without me. The lies would echo longer than my footsteps ever had. And the man she lost would not be the one she missed. Because what betrayal never understands is that the real loss is not the person who leaves. It's the version of them that will never come back. I didn't rebuild my life out of revenge. I rebuilt it out of clarity. And that, I learned, was the most irreversible ending of all.